recording now? Okay, so we're starting off this webinar. It is April 12th, and we're talking with Jamie Rosenthal of Roots Down about creating more regenerative conventional landscaping industry. And I'm really just going to hand the mic over to you, Jamie, and Jamie's going to give a short presentation about his work at Roots Down and the mission of just sort of healing the conventional landscaping industry. And then we're going to take questions at the end. So it'll be just a solid hour. And so save your questions. And if you want to jump in, you can write a question in the chat if you have something, burning to ask Jamie. So we are going to get going.
Great. Well, thank you, Lindsay. I'm the founder and CEO of Roots Down. My history, everyone wants to know kind of like why you do what you do. I am a former farmer and landscaper. I've done both. I've been in the industry for almost 2 decades. When I was in my 20s, I ran a conventional landscaping business. It was your typical mow and blow, and we planted lots of trees and bushes and learned a lot. And I had a brief history. I actually got a BFA in fine art in photography and pursued that for a little while, which is a really interesting little tidbit about me. And then started to operate a farm. I think due to everyone, got the buzz back in the early 2000s, the farming buzz. So I did what every sane person would do. And I decided to drop everything I had in my fashion photography career and jump right head first into owning and operating a farm. And that's where I learned a lot of interesting land connections. Healing our property. It was a horse farm, an old equestrian center, and being able to work with the soil and do all this really great stuff with community was really where I fell in love with ecology and just kind of overall better earth stewardship and land stewardship practices. And sold my farm and moved back to Atlanta, Georgia. I was farming in North Georgia. And then I decided to come back to Atlanta, where I've lived for many years, and started a consulting business to help. Really, the consulting business Roots Down was kind of started to help convert all of your typical landscaping paradigm you guys see in county and city governments, mow and blow operations, into more sustainable landscapes, really bending the conventional landscaping more into farming, like what I knew as farming, or actually more so permaculture, which is I actually am double certified permaculturist. I know that means not a whole lot as far as credentials, because it's a small thing to get. I think I know enough to be dangerous. So yeah, I started working with city government, and then I worked with a commissioner who moved from a mayor to a commissioner. And then we started working with DeKalb County, which for those of you who aren't from Atlanta, it's adjacent to Atlanta. It's the second largest county in Georgia. And started working directly with DeKalb County facilities and working to transform all of their mow and blow landscapes with the libraries and senior centers into better, more sustainable landscapes by incorporating pollinator habitat, better practices, and all of that. So that's kind of the skinny of who I am and what I do. I do have a presentation. I will apologize in advance because the presentation I have, let me
take your time pulling that up.
All right, share my screen. Let me go and see if I can pull up a PDF that will not show all the slides. But if not, we will. I will be happy to share the presentation as is.
Well,
okay.
While Jamie's doing that, if anybody wants, I'm sorry I didn't do this at the beginning, but we always love to know why you're here and why you're attending these webinars. So if you want to write in the chat, maybe a leading question you have for Jamie or something, an area of interest, that is so welcomed, or where you're from. I'm sorry I didn't do that to start, but I just wanted to open that to you guys attending. So go ahead, Jamie.
No worries. Well, I can't seem to get the PDF to work. I'm sorry. I'm working with a computer that's almost 10 years old. But I can make this work. Let me share my screen so we can share the presentation with you guys. Okie dokie. This is the presentation. Let me start from the beginning. Bear with me again, and I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, we started. If everyone here can see the screen, then fabulous. Let's make it as simple as we can, and we'll go through the slideshow. So I think, the name of this program today is The Future of Landscaping, where you guys fit in as people like working in the industry. I think what's really important to understand is, I believe that it can be a greener and better future, and I think that we're heading in that direction. So it's really exciting to be talking about this subject with you guys. A lot of you guys may be practitioners in the field, people that have worked in the industry or are wanting to get into the industry. And I think that the future for landscaping is really very exciting. So I already talked about myself. So that is me. Yes, I am a cocktail enthusiast, as well as other things. I do like to dabble in all things related to cooking and using my hands. It's just something I like to do. So gardening really plays a huge role in my life. It's anything I can make from the garden, and that includes cocktails and some interesting herbal tinctures and stuff, but I'm not here to talk about that. So our agenda is to talk about the state of the landscaping industry, what the future brings for the landscaping industry, what productive urban landscapes are. That's a vernacular we created at Roots Down to talk about landscaping in a little bit different tone. I think that it paints a picture, that word productive urban landscape paints a picture of what we want to see in the future. The market opportunity that we have with this industry, rapidly changing and growing, how to grow your green landscaping business, how it helps, what is going to be next, and we'll do some Q&A. And really, I'm a pretty quick talker, so I'll probably be able to get through this presentation pretty quick, and we'll have a really good Q&A session. That's really where the meat of, I like to open that up to have a lot more time to dive into some questions. And that'll be the most fun part of the presentation, I promise. So the landscaping industry is changing. I know that you guys out there that are working in the industry are seeing these changes, whether it's the use of electric equipment. That's really becoming a big thing in our industry. The shying away from fossil fuels and the use of fossil fuels, because let's face it, they're not sustainable, but they're also very expensive. And also the use of fossil fuels as far as our herbicides and pesticides that we use in the industry. It is changing, and people are becoming more aware of the issues with the landscaping industry. And I think that this is just a kind of a funny slide. These things are all kind of moving this industry, I think, are moving this industry to the green revolution. And it has everything to do from climate change, budget issues, millennials, let's face it, the generation below me, but they are absolutely engaged at a level as far as wanting this industry to change more than I think any other generation has been. Rising prices, like we talked about. And then one of the things we can point out that's really interesting is like the noise haters, the people that don't like the leaf blowers. There's a lot of people in our communities that complain about the noise of the landscaping industry, and it's just generally really loud in its form right now, and it could be a lot better by using electric equipment or just using the leaf blowers less. So I've been able to read a lot of journals over the last 7 to 10 years that are, and here's just a few examples of journals where basically in areas like Nevada, they're having to ban grass because grass is let's face it, it's an irrigated crop. It's actually the largest irrigated crop in America. And because we're having to look at more climate resilient landscapes and areas like Nevada that are really facing issues in climate change, they're seeing it because they're so drought stricken that this is just becoming almost normal for them to incorporate better, more resilient landscapes and banning the modern day lawns. Leaf blower and noise ordinances related to leaf blowers are a huge issue. DeKalb County is actually working on legislation at the moment to pass a ban on leaf blowers. I can say, for those of you guys interested in knowing more about how I feel about the leaf blower ban, I do feel that there's an opportunity for education rather than putting a ban on something. I think that the ban on the bans was passed in the House or the Senate, one of the others, and that shows that basically people are fighting that ban tooth and nail because they feel like it's not equitable and it's not fair to ban something that's a tool for the industry. And I kind of get that. I really am not a proponent of gas powered equipment at all, but I do feel that there needs to be a good bit of education involved before we start putting a ban on things. I do want to see them phased out, but I do think that there is a more ethical way to do it and a little bit more carrot rather than stick way to do it. So extension services are offering new ideas for better plant palettes and offering opportunities for nurseries to take ownership of the plant palettes that they're actually introducing into the industry that can be damaging to soils and damaging to birds and native ecology. So a lot of these things are coming up, and I'm seeing like really what's interesting about the industry. I think the one of the pinnacles of change that I noticed over the last several years is COVID, and COVID has really been a big tipping point for my business alone in knowing that some of these numbers that you're seeing here, with a third of all households wanting to grow food or food type plants in their yards, and 65% increase in millennial gardens millennials are spending money in garden supplies. I think that the COVID issue, because that became real, that was kind of I think we can actually point to that being a climate issue as well, as far as how COVID spread. And I think that people realize like being outside is a safe space. And while they're going outside, they're starting to notice more issues with the outside world. So COVID really was a tipping point for growth in this industry for sure. So I believe the future of landscaping is this. It's electric, native, drought resistant. It's low input and high yielding, sustainable, multi-use, edible, all of these things. I think that there is enough space in America in all of our front and backyards and all public spaces and domains to grow enough fruits and vegetables, to grow enough pollinator habitat to really replenish our native ecology and to feed people and communities. I think it's all possible if we just change what the industry is doing as a bad maintenance habits. Again, we discussed productive urban landscapes being the vernacular. That's the term we use. I will be offering this slideshow to you guys if anyone wants it. I will put this over. I'll send it over to Lindsay and she could submit it to you guys. But I'm really interested in changing the vernacular and changing the terminology, and not landscaping is a boring word. Like landscapes is kind of a boring word. So we just wanted to create something that actually paints a beautiful picture. So I want to show you guys this slide, and some of you may be looking at me like, what is the deal here? There's a really good image. One of our board members this is a library at Toco Hills, one of the libraries we are currently working on with DeKalb County. And what you find on the right is the after actually it was installed to spec all sustainable landscapes, rain garden. You can see the little entryway for water to come in right here. And it was done so beautifully. And it was spec'd to be installed this way, but then they just hired a general contractor to do the maintenance. And then 8 months later, a year later, it started to kind of look like this. So it's like 2 or 3 years from this after picture was, you know, what it looks like. So I think maybe maybe Trace got the image wrong here, but basically the before and after is switched. So if you guys, sorry about that, the confusion there, but basically after is on the left and before is on the right. So the install was the way it looked on the right here, and then after really bad maintenance on the left is the way it looks currently, and we're changing that at the moment just through bad maintenance practices. Here's another before. We are really fortunate to have some great partners. One of our partners is the MicroLife Institute. They are a partner that they create cottage homes, and we partner with them to create a better landscape model for homes, for housing development and developers and HOAs. So we worked with them to create a much better landscape. And this is what it looks like after. All useful plants. This is the first of its kind level 3 certificate property. Basically, there is no mowing and no blowing going on here. There is one where you see the after picture. We did turn the common green into some slow growing fescue because the community wanted that for you know, just to hang out in, and they just thought the mulch was a little bit messy. But it's all being mowed and powered with, actually one of the guys doing it there is doing it with a reel mower, one of those push reel mowers. So yeah, this property is all maintained by hand with electric equipment and is now a level 3 property. So this is just kind of like the idea of a modern day landscape and what it looks like. I think that's interesting. One of the talking points that we often talk about is that even this landscape could be 10% better. So what our organization does is we teach people to crawl before we're teaching them to walk, because while we all want our landscapes to look like this, the truth and reality is most landscapes look like this, and they exist with grass and antiquated bushes and things of that nature. But one of the things we're working with in management for management properties and stuff like that is to make it low spray, low mow, low blow properties by changing the maintenance habits, because I feel that maintenance is actually where true sustainability is met. I think that we can install all the most beautiful things in the world, but if the maintenance program doesn't meet those demands, then it just ends up being a ecological wasteland. The opportunity, for those of you guys on here that are in the industry, the opportunity is legion. The demand, I remember being a young farmer and barely being able to find organic produce anywhere. And I think that through the work of the USDA and big ag or what have you, or the market, I think it's interesting to know that every single grocery store we go to, even if in rural counties, has organic options. So I'm seeing the same thing happening for this industry, for the landscaping industry. The awareness is there, and the clients, they know how to do better and how to be more sustainable. And in fact, they want to be more sustainable. So if we're offering a way to be able to do that, you're going to find that a lot of clients that you guys are dealing with, if you guys are in the industry, are going to say absolutely yes, and will most likely pay even more for those services, we have found. So we'll talk a little bit about how to grow your green business. I think step one, if anybody in the industry is offering any kind of maintenance package, looking to change your practices right away actually we ran a poll, and the numbers, if I could remember correctly, are up to 20. People would pay up to 20% for more sustainable practices. So I think one of the really cool things here is if you want to grow your green business, offer a product, offer a new green product, and upsell those packages. People are used to paying a premium for things, and they will pay a little bit more for this. And especially if they know all the positive externalities of a good maintenance plan. And in installation, when you're talking about like installing your landscapes, I think that it's really important to look at the plants you're installing, your pallets, and choose really wisely of where things go, and how they're actually incorporated into the landscape. Not every landscape is the same. Some things have environmental issues to them that can't be solved right away with one type of plant. Things in neighborhoods where there's, like, for instance, in neighborhoods where you have knockout roses or things of that nature that are really susceptible to disease, it's really a bad idea to choose that variety and plant that, because you know that your client is going to call you and say that the roses are dead. So, we talk about starting small, and I think that some people need that small step to kind of see. So here we're talking about changing just one small sunny 100 to 200 square foot area. And yeah, I think that this is we can talk more about that in the Q&A, but there's some really great ways through helping your business by installing things correctly from the get-go. We also do a little bit of design consultation with some of our landscaping clients. And we want to make sure that things are designed intentionally. I think that design also, like, while I do have a solution for landscapes that are not designed or installed properly, even if we get to that point, there's still a solution to make the landscape a lot more sustainable in its maintenance program. But design is everything. And I think if you start with a good thought out design and informative design, and you spent more time on the space, on the landscape, really seeing exactly where to install certain things, where your sun patterns are, where your walking patterns are. These are things we teach designers. I do a lot of workshops and stuff for designers as well. These things we teach designers to do, because not everything is cut and paste. This world is not a cut and paste world, and design should not be. So I think it's really important for us to look at good design patterns in order to help your business. How all this helps? Well, it raises client property values. Believe it or not, my wife and I sold our last house we live in the city of Decatur, and I built a resilient no mow, no blow yard. And it took the right client, it took the right person, but that person bought the house because they love the yard. And it was stepped up. It was done really beautifully. There was everything from pineapple guava to bananas to olives to loquat. It was just teeming with life, and it was done in a very traditional landscape style. It just looked really beautiful. It looked like a botanical garden with really nice wide paths. And they bought the house, and they've been keeping the yard up, which is really great. So I was able to sell that house to that person because of the yard. It does, these landscapes that we're talking about, more resilient landscapes, does lower costs and it increases profits for sure. It's just knowing about how to use certain products. And one of the examples that I use all the time when I'm training new landscapers to the industry is there's so many resources out there. It's a matter of tapping into them. And one of the examples I use is mulch. When I say mulch, I mean wood chips. There are companies out there that dump wood chips out all over the place. And that stuff costs about $30 a yard if you buy it. Well, there is ways to get that stuff for little to no money It just takes a little bit of like know-how. I've done a lot of that work with DeKalb County, where I've created hubs for this wood chips to sit and mature for a year or two and be able to use them for the landscapes. And it's ended up saving the county a lot of money. So it also, like, I think good practices, good design, and good installation will increase a lifetime of your landscape. I think that landscapes, typical traditional landscapes, peter out at about year 10 to 12. And that's because of a lot of the maintenance issues that come with that. But I think that if you are wanting to create a landscape that is more resilient, that is going to last over time, I think it's really important if you guys incorporate these landscapes into your create productive urban landscapes and create a good maintenance plan to maintain them. So yeah, I think that all of this is kind of preaching to the choir. They're all better for your health. I think that there's a lot less competition in this industry, in the green industry. I think that it's moving in that direction, but I think knowing that this industry is changing and being a thought leader in this industry and moving as fast as industry is moving, I think it's really important. So this all kind of like, whether you are a landscaper or a permaculturist or wherever, understanding that this industry is moving in this direction, ways for you guys to plug in to it and be a thought leader is really, really amazing. And this industry has a lot of room for everyone to make money. So what is next? Well, as far as the industry is concerned, I think leveling up, knowing more about the industry and the trends, and knowing how to communicate that with your clients is really, really important. I think that's key. Looking into electric, we have partnered with a lot of electric companies, and their electric equipment, I think, is actually far better than some of the commercial or some of the commercial gasoline equipment out there. It looks better, and I think some of the equipment that I've used has the same amount of power. So I think that looking into and making that leap towards electric equipment, whether it just be with a backpack blower or a hand blower or something to sweep sidewalks off, is really important. Again, communicating with your clients and practicing at home. I tend to do that. Like a lot of the properties I've lived on, I have always used them as incubators or labs where I create new palettes for different things to see how they work, because that's the way I learn. So making sure you're practicing at home, I think is really, really important. But yeah, so I think this gets us to the Q&A section of the program, and I will stop sharing my screen. Let me put it here, and then be able to ask you guys or answer any questions. I see we have just a small group, so this, can be as personal as possible.
Thanks, Jamie. That was really great. That was so helpful. And I'll open the floor if anybody has questions. I certainly have quite a few questions. So, but Alex, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, so I did want to say, so I just started my eco-friendly landscape business, and I did go all electric for the equipment other than the zero turn. I do want to say they are much more powerful than the gas from what I've experienced. The battery life is, we're trying to get around that and figure out how to make battery life last longer without buying a bunch of different batteries and stuff. But there's also no carburetor issues, which is huge, because when coming from the industry, like when you have a carburetor issue and your stuff doesn't start, like that's time wasted, and you're always trying to chase hours. But I did want to ask, what can I use in place of normal herbicides and pesticides? I've been trying to research it, and I mean, I can't figure out what the best solution is. Like I've seen the vinegar based, solutions that you can make at home.
Yeah.
But I haven't really found a great herbicide.
Well, I don't want to shamelessly. There is a one of our affiliates that we're working with, and the product's called Lawn Arc. And I can send you any of this information that comes about for this meeting. I can send you more information about it. We've just started using them. They are an all natural herbicide. They're not OMRI listed like herbicide, which is okay. I'm not like a huge fan of like all the titles anyway, but the chemicals in there that they're using is well balanced. It seems to work. We're going to have a lot more videos on our Instagram and stuff about showing that once the weather warms up. I think it works better with warmer weather. I mean, it's really it will kill the plant, but not to the root. I'm going to be honest. I think that is one of the hardest things as far as herbicide use. And one of the so that's one thing. But I'll say in lieu of that conversation about herbicide is what I'm seeing in the industry. I'm not a proponent of chemical usage at all. I'm not. I'm not advocating for that. But in some situations where there is invasives take hold and things are really out of control, it's really hard to get things it's really hard to like get things wiped the palette clean so that way you can install what you need to install, whether it's wiping the palette clean, sheet mulching, and then moving in with some beautiful pollinator habitat stuff. It's really difficult to not get to that point without the last use of herbicide on a property. So I try to tell people, especially the vendors that we're dealing with they swear and die by the herbicide. It's like the hill they want to die on is they don't want to stop using it. But what I train them to do is use it a lot more integrated or a lot more intentionally rather than sticking a big hose on a big truck and spraying everything. Like to be very strategic with it makes a big difference. It also helps the life of other plants around it.
For sure.
So Lawn Arc is a good chemical. I have been using them. I would suggest certainly trying it out, especially if it comes to spot spraying broadleaf weeds.
And was that ARC, like ARK?
Yeah, like the butterfly, like monarch. Okay. LO. Let me see if I can get. Let me see if I can. Before we leave, I'll pull up the information for you.
Okay, perfect.
Send you anything. And again, my email address will be attached to all this. So feel free to reach out to me, and we can chat.
Awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Too. Yeah, Josh or Jamie, I was wondering like what the biggest area of resistance. Like you talk to big groups of conventional landscapers. Like, is this the sticking point? Is it the pesticides, or what is the people struggle to transition into or away from?
I would say that it is it's change in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's change, and change that's attached to a message, like when it comes to right wing, left wing stuff, it's always polarizing. Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to ride the line and talk about the fiscal, because they want to hear about the money it's going to save them or the potential for their business growth. That's the conversation that I don't care if you're liberal, Republican, whatever, anywhere in between, you want your business to make money. So they're very resistant to change. And if it comes with a polarizing message of the climate we're dying, the planet is dying, then they certainly will dig their heels in and don't want to make change. So I've tried to ride the middle ground and say, okay, guys, let's talk about the potential for you making more money.
Yeah. That's real.
Oh yeah. Not spending money on gas is amazing.
Yeah. And again, that's what has gotten them. So I think I took the conversation from what is the most negative. And like, I remember we did intro to productive urban landscape for DeKalb County facilities management. And it was like 4 of their vendors and the whole management team that manages all the vendors. And when we were talking about gas powered lawn equipment being a pollutant, the whole time they were shaking they were like, and
Didn't
we had specs, we had done the research. I'm not a dummy. I'm not going to come to a gun show, you know, a gunfight with a knife. Like, I'm like, no, these are the research. Like, this is actual peer-reviewed research that we're bringing to the table. Like, yes, a gas blower puts out more carbon emissions than most vehicles on the road by a huge factor amount. And
Wow.
they were just, no, they didn't want to hear it. But as soon as I said, you guys can make more money at this, they're like, tell me how.
Totally.
Oh, we got to change our equipment. We'll do that. You know?
So, okay, one of the big questions I have is like, how does Roots Down support people with like the marketing message? Because it's a pretty, I see, because I'm a marketer, like this is another aspect of where you can make more money, like presenting your company as a green business. Like how have you seen conventional landscapers like sort of change their message? Or like rebrand?
That's tough. I haven't, to be honest, we're still in this paradigm, and I'm going to be very real with you, where people that, people like Alex that are out of the gates, right out of the gates, wanting to have a green business, right? It's a lot easier pill to swallow for them. And they're like, oh, well, I'm going green, or I'm green. I think that it's, right now we're still so early in the game where a lot of the people, they just don't know how to talk about it yet. They don't know how to communicate that to their clients yet. Like I had mentioned, the reason why Roots Down exists is for that one reason, is that they don't have a good message. And okay, well, I'll give you a better example. I told you this can be a really juicy conversation. So there's a company here in the Decatur area where I live in Atlanta, or outside of Atlanta, and they have a business that claims to be very sustainable. Like, it's a landscaping business. They do install, design, and maintenance, which I think I'm starting to see a lot more of.
Yeah.
Those small firms, because they're capturing all the revenue.
Totally.
Well, they put out they started a all electric eco team in the business. And instead of it being a part of the way they do business, they created an alienated or small team separate from their core business model. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then they tried to they outfitted that team, and then they try to market that instead of incorporating sustainability and threading it through all they do. Like, they could just say, we are taking a stand, and we are going to do 10% less of gas powered leaf blowers, and we're going to start incorporating electric leaf blowers into our thing. We're asking you guys as clients, like, you may see a price increase on your, you know what I'm saying? It's the way we do business. And I could preach all day about that, because just really it's their marketing. It's their marketing department. It's all organic or sustainable, or it's none. And it's not that black and white. There's a gray scale here that is so huge. Gosh,
I'm so surprised to hear there's been resistance. I kind of thought people would be like, this is such a no-brainer. It's like a triple bottom line thing, you know? But
they only care about one. They only care about one thing, bottom line. They care about the fiscal. The majority of them, so it's interesting. It's just a really interesting.
It is.
It's an interesting paradigm we're in.
Alex, do you have, or anyone else have questions? I could talk my head off. I have a whole list of questions, but anyone else?
I do have a couple more.
Okay, great.
I did want to know, I don't know if you've experienced this at all. I have a customer right now that I did a consultation for, and they really want, the pollinator plants and all that, like, and ground cover and place of grass and all native stuff. I'm having issues with the township. They view it as an eyesore. Having that like meadow look, wildflower look, all of that, as well as the HOA. I don't really know how to get around that, or like how to, bring it up to the HOAs and the townships?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man.
Sure.
That is okay. So FYI, we started our organization based on policy and advocacy. That was the whole thing we wanted to do was policy and advocacy. And we realized like, man, we are policy and advocacy work moves as slow as a viscous river of oil. It's so slow. So we needed to do more training, education, and bringing the awareness through the training and education. So in my experience with HOAs, they are misguided and uneducated. They don't know. They have no idea. So instead of doing something, in the opportunity is it's so huge for a company like yours to maybe create a lookbook of what a landscape like that would look like, you know, and go to the HOA and say, hey, like I'm going to be installing more environmentally friendly landscapes that meet the requirements of the changing world that we're in, to make it better. This is what these projects would look like when they're realized and they're maintained properly. Give them a lookbook, present to them. You got to advocate for your services, and you'll find if you do that in your industry, if you do that, you will have more business and you'll know what to do. And if you could change the mind of one HOA, they're like, oh shit, well, I didn't know that this landscape would be this much more sustainable, or this much lower maintenance, or like, you know, you could argue your traditional landscape is polluting is noise polluting our neighborhoods every day with these armies of mowers and blowers out that's making people insane. So I think creating a little bit like a 2-pager or a 1-pager offering to do like a lunch and learn with HOAs, you'll find your business. That is a $1 million piece of advice for you, bud. Like honestly,
I really appreciate it.
That's great advice.
And because you're gonna get more, what do they say? Bees with honey, you know, than vinegar. So I think like doing it and being radical doesn't get us anywhere in life. And I've realized that like when you go to an HO and you'd be like, I'm not mowing my yard. Like someone wanted to use one of my signs. We have a grow don't mow campaign. I love it, but now that I know that it's polarizing, I'm like, okay, I use it very little because people think grow don't mow. Well, they think like we're gonna look like everything's gonna look like a weed factory. Well, somebody in my community didn't want to mow their yard and took one of my signs that we had. I didn't know that this was the case. Put the grow don't mow sign in the yard. Said, I'm not mowing my yard. You should check out what Roots Down is doing. I'm like, oh no. And that HOA hated us. They were like coming after us. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, no, that's not the message we're saying. So I think it's good to get ahead of it and educate your clients. Start producing awareness pieces and educational pieces, and let them understand the maintenance aspect to it, because I am of the belief, I don't know if you guys believe this or not, but that the landscapes that we're trying to realize are much more beautiful, beautiful than what people even know of. Like it's, you know, a landscape needs some relief. It needs some lines. It needs clean lines. It needs clean delineations. It needs patterns. It needs shapes. It needs all of those things, but it doesn't need a 1-inch golf course type lawn to be beautiful. So if you can paint that picture, man, your business will turn into a massive one overnight.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the
advice. That's awesome advice. Thank you, Jamie. Anybody else? Other questions? Well, I have one. I wonder, like, if landscapers you're connecting with, like, how do you connect them with designers or empower them to get more design skills?
That's a good question. I tell a landscaper that doesn't know anything about design, to definitely stay out of that game, because it could be well, I'll tell you why. In the example of whenever a design firm designs a project and then a landscaper installs it, if it doesn't work, it typically goes back to the designer. It's typically like a problem with the designer.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, if anyone knows anything, they're like, oh, well, our hollies are planted too close, and oh, that was planted to spec. I think that I'm mindful of saying this, but I'm being honest. I think there's a lot of ignorance when there comes to designers. So I think I would, if I were a landscaper and I wanted to inform my designers to create better landscapes, what I would do is create some parameters for them to work in, like, please incorporate these plants for pollinators. Please incorporate these plants for edibles and beneficials. Please, when you design my projects, decrease the amount of grass space by 20 to 30%. And if you give them guidance and lines, the designers will do it. The designers can design. A designer can design anything. It's just about the knowledge base, and what they know and what they don't know. And a lot of what they know is kind of standardized, antiquated, not old technology. They like, you plant hollies like this, you plant crepe myrtles here. So I think you, as a landscaper, should just give them some. If you're hiring them, you have that agency to be able to say, hey, like, can you please make these changes in your design when you go to design this landscape? But if you are getting hired by the designer to come in, then it's really tough.
Yeah, I wonder, like, have you worked with people who are kind of outsourcing these companies like Thrivelot? I think that's Thrivelot that does the design, or Zen Garden or whatever it is. Like, how do you see people like using companies like that to get designers?
Yes. Well, the answer is yes. Yes. I'm not very plugged into the residential world.
Oh, sure.
A lot of what we're doing is a lot more commercial based.
Okay.
But I know enough about that world to tell you that yes, because landscape design, it comes with a margin, a profit margin in the 80 to 75 to 90%, right? The actual install is, you can't get more than 50%. It's really, and then they'll claim you're unethical if you're getting more than 50%, right?
Yeah.
The margins for landscape design are really high. So what I see in the industry is that a lot of people don't want to pay they don't want to pay a designer to just do, like a sketched out design. They're like, oh, well, I'll get whatever's cheapest. They don't want to pay for a really good design.
Yeah.
Because good designs cost, starting costs at about $2,000 for a 2,500 to 3,000 square foot yard.
Totally. Yeah,
that's tough. I mean, that's really tough. But yeah, people are trying to save money, and when they try to save money and they try to bend that, they often end up in a pickle.
Yeah. Interesting. I do see. So our sister company at the Foodscaper is Custom Foodscaping, and we have design, build, install, maintain. We're kind of all in-house, and I'm so curious about that because I don't know how. It seems like a lot of people, hire us for design, but I don't know. We only do designs. Like, we won't just do we can't without a design. So everyone does it differently, but we have found, and we kind of started out using just Google Slides as a design platform that was really low cost, and like maybe could be an entry point for some landscapers that want to try it out. And a lot of people in our team have, their permaculture design certifications. There's like some design knowledge, but that's been an entry point for us. And now we use Photoshop and SketchUp, stuff like that. So that's been our journey.
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't want to disparage anybody or anything, but what I've noticed, I'm double permaculture certified, but you never would want me designing your yard.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that is something that is a misnomer in our industry. It's like, people, for landscape architects, they go to school for this stuff. It's, like they go to school for that knowledge and that understanding, like horticulturists go to school for that knowledge, that plant-based. I'm not saying that they have all the picture there, and still they design really crappy landscapes. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I think that with a little bit more information and updating from a permaculturist, they can design something a lot better. But I've seen it all. I mean, honestly, Lindsay, I think well, I'll say this. This is how I feel about design. I think if you were a small company, and you're wanting to get in this industry, offering a simple design, no color, no frills design, hiring somebody in your company to be able to produce that would pay in spades. It would be so good for any company that wants to, because then you can take full ownership of the whole project. It allows you to make the changes on the fly, because a lot of designers, when you're on a site, and I've been there, done that, they are such sticklers for like getting installed to specs. Well, sometimes grade is not the same when you're installing as when it was when the project was in ideation. The grade changes, and sometimes the landscaper can make the best, the quickest and best and most fast, efficient move to install the plant. So I think like every small company should have a small bit of design, whether you're designing, if it's especially for residential and homeowners, if you're designing a project that's less than $10,000 and you have a small designer on staff that you can, churn out those designs, I think it's a good add-on for a company.
Totally. Yeah, we found a custom foodscaping that like clients don't really care if our designs look super basic. They're just like, great. They're like, looks good. Move that plum tree over here, or whatever. Yeah. But that's been kind of a encouragement to anyone watching this now or during the recording. Like, I think we kind of felt insecure about that at the beginning. Like, oh, our designs are so basic, but people don't really care. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, if they want that really nice, fluffy, beautiful colored, fully rendered design, then they're gonna have to pay for it,
Yeah, totally. And for sure. Our starting designs are like $1,000 easily. So, okay, more about, anyone else have questions? Alex, do you have any more?
I think I asked everything I have for now.
I wondered what, so we use Milwaukee Electric. Does anyone else, do you have like recommended brands for tools, electric tools?
So I actually went steel for mine. And they have this cool like backpack battery. It's supposed to last like 11 hours. I'm getting like 6 to 7 hours out of it per charge. But I mean, that's almost a full day's work. And if you have a couple, one or two other ones, it definitely, I like steel a lot.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah, we are starting to ink a deal as a kind of affiliate brand with a company called Cress, and they make they specialize in commercial equipment. They don't have a huge residential wing, but we are going to get to test their stuff next week, so I'm super excited about that. We went to one of their demos at a trade show, and I was really impressed with their technology and their battery technology and the ethics of the company, because they're not just a company that did gas before and is moving to electric. They're a company that is electric, period. Cool. That's where all their technologies lie. Yeah.
Okay, one last question because we only have a few more minutes. What do you guys recommend with people who for mosquito care and insect care? It's not super toxic.
Oh man. This is probably going to be the saddest answer you get this whole thing, so I apologize. But okay, let's use this example, right? We live in neighborhoods. I'm like looking out my backyard right now. I have a tiny little backyard, like a nothing burger backyard. I live in a city where land is expensive. So I'm looking at my backyard. I've got neighbors right here. I got neighbors right here. I got neighbors right here. I got neighbors everywhere, right? I decided to do all green mosquito dump services. right? That's offered by one of the local companies. Well, I put it in my yard and I expect all the mosquitoes to come in. Well, what is neighbor X next door doing? Well, they're spraying the damn mosquitoes conventionally, because their guy comes out with a backpack and dusts everything and it goes all over my yard. It's an environmental issue, because I'll tell you why. If everyone is those products that are labeled environmentally friendly, if mosquitoes don't just stay in one yard. They roam, they're all over the place, right? So if I'm doing this in my little thumbprint little tiny yard where I'm hoping the mosquitoes are going to go away, and all the neighbors are doing different things and different strategies, I'm still getting mosquitoes that are biting me at night. And it's because we're so out of whack and out of balance environmentally, like as far as like our, like our watershed management. Let's just start there with our city and county municipal governments. They're not doing enough to clean leaves and move water and debris from places. I mean, it's an issue that I think it's a racket as far as like those mosquito things. Like, I think that and also you hear a lot of people like, oh, well, this plant deters mosquitoes. I'm always like, I'm laughing. I'm like, I will watch a mosquito land on a rosemary plant or a lemongrass plant, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, it does help to wear some natural mosquito repellent on your skin. I tend to use like a real natural product when they bother me, but they don't bother me. They bother my wife and my kid. But I think as far as mosquito, or let's just say bug and insect control, I think that there's a lot you can do about the ground insects around your house. And there's quite a bit of products out there. We use a company called Green Queen, and they do a earth-friendly product that works. But I think that because our native ecology has been so destroyed and the bugs and insects are out of balance, there's so many more bad bugs than there are good bugs. I think we're just running into that issue. So it's really difficult. I think it's an uphill battle that we'll be fighting for years and years and years. That's why I think it's really important to incorporate more native pollinator habitat and things like that. Like, I think having a pollinator garden in your yard would be better fighting for mosquitoes and bad insects rather than spraying anything at all.
Yeah, I know it's one of those paradoxes in this industry. Like, we are going to be, I think I read, we're going to lose a quarter of the world's insects in like 20 years. And we also like are trying to get them out of our yards just to be comfortable. So we really need them, but we're in this problem because people, spray toxic shit in their yards. So thank you for that advice. That's helpful. And that's a tough aspect of this business for sure. So
yeah.
Hey, I think go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, it's not that's the thing too. People don't realize it's not an easy solution. So nothing good comes easy. So
nothing good comes easy. That's so true. Okay. I think, we're almost to 2:30 my time. So I think we're going to wrap up, but thank you so much, Jamie. This was really, really good. And I think many people will continue to benefit from this as they watch the recording. So I really appreciate the work you guys are doing at Roots Down, and thank you for such a great presentation.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm sorry for the technical issues, but if you need us to present on any going in a little bit more micro in the future, we can help out with that as well. Let us know. Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for everyone who attended, and I'll be emailing out a recording of this to everyone who signed up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.